26 minutes after 6 o'clock. Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. My name is Rawkus. This morning, Kimberly is here with us. And joining us from the TTPS, I want to welcome Inspector Michelle Lewis. Good morning to you, Inspector.
Good morning to you, sir. Good morning to you, ma'am. And good morning to your listeners and your viewers.
How are you doing this morning?
I am good. Thank you for having us this morning.
Now, this morning, we're talking about obstructing a police officer in the execution of his duties. Well, it's his or her. I know in law it says his.
Yes, in law it says his. And in law, his refers to both male and female.
Okay. All right. So I'm curious, firstly, as to what are the general duties of a police officer? I mean, I know there's probably a huge list of things based on which department you're working in, et cetera, but is there like a general list of duties that we can say we would see police officers carrying out?
Well, yeah, there is a general list of duties according to the Police Service Act, Chapter 1501. And number one in that, which is very simple and specific, is that of the police officer keeping the peace.
Right.
In relation to detection of offenses and stuff like that. So that if I could, let me just read it for you so I will get it very clear. And so the police officer shall preserve the peace, detect crime and other breaches of the law. That is number one. A police officer may charge and bring before a summary court a person found committing any offense, rendering him to arrest without warrant, or whom he reasonably suspect of having committed any such offense. So that when you talk about a police officer or someone resisting arrest or obstructing an officer in the execution of his duties, you can look simply at in relation to keeping the peace or any breach of the law. And any breach of the law is in relation to any portion of any act in Trinidad and Tobago. It could fall under the Public Health Ordinance Act or any other act.
So this means that all police officers are required to learn the law inside out in order to execute this?
Yes. So in each of the acts, there are several pieces of documents, right?
Right.
And in each of it, there's always a portion that where the police has powers of arrest. Even in the Motor Vehicle and ROT Act. So where you have the licensing officers, they would have, and then the police officer will have. So that even in custom and excise, so in everything, there's always, not in everything, but in sort of like in every section of the law, there is always a portion where the police service has powers of arrest in relation to making sure that that piece of legislation and those who breach the law are held accountable for it.
So does obstructing it mean simply anything I do to prevent you from being able to arrest somebody who is breaking that law?
Yes. So obstructing could be in words, it could be in action. So for example, let's say there's a crowd. For example, there was a video circulating about 2 weeks ago where some children, school children who are minors, were obstructing the police officer in the execution of his duty. The officers were effecting an arrest. And so in a case like that, you had children who are minors. Not because you are a minor, it means that if you commit an offense, it means that you cannot be held culpable for it.
Right.
And so whether you're a child or not, the law says that if you resist, if you obstruct the police officer in the execution of his duty, if you resist arrest, you can be charged. And where before under the Act, the Police Service Act 1501, 2016, that offense carried a penalty of 2 years and $15,000 or $10,000, if I can just correct myself, $10,000. That now has moved from 2 years imprisonment to 3 years imprisonment.
Okay.
And to a fine of $50,000. So it has increased dramatically. It has moved from being a summary offense to an indictable offense, which is that it has to be heard before a judge and jury. So it has gotten stiffer. It has increased. The penalty for obstructing a police officer has gotten worse, to put simply for persons to understand. And it is because the law, the persons who create the law recognize that if you don't put stiffer measures in place, persons will have no respect for authority.
But Inspector Lewis, I just want to come in here. In terms of, so we have obstructing the police officers, but we also have people who might want to be like, you know, a citizen arrest. So how do you make that distinction between obstructing them from doing what they're doing and also, you know, arresting based on the rights that you have as a citizen?
The same Police Service Act, that 59 speaks about obstructing, and then Section 60 speaks of where, for example, a police officer is executing an arrest or conducting his duty, and he requires assistance, and he calls upon a member of the public to assist. That member of the public ought to assist. If that person fails, that person can also be charged, right? But there's also something under the criminal law, the criminal law 1004, which speaks of any person has the authority, what you call a citizen arrest, and could arrest anyone who is committing an offense or about to commit, right? And so under that portion of Act, which is separate from the Police Service Act, under the Criminal Law Act, that person can effect an arrest. However, in doing so, you must use reasonable force. You cannot beat up on a person with brick and stone and wood and all sorts of things and call that, you know, legal or legitimate. You too will be charged for carrying things, you know,
weapons
above board. I mean, when you look, because there was a video recently that showed something like that, you know, and what we admonish persons to do, we have what you call neighborhood watch groups, where you would have the involvement of the police, and the police would come in and they would go through some of the accepted guidelines for you in relation to what is safe and keeping your community safe, and you will network with the police district. So that if you do, because sometimes depending, you may be closer to arresting that person than the police is to reach. And so that is fine. And when the police reach, you handle that person over to the police, and the police do the needful. In the case where, for example, the person has bruised and battered and broken bones, the police will take that person to the hospital to be medically examined. And based on that, the matter takes, you know, a different turn. So as much as we want the persons to help, don't take it further than you can.
We basically don't want vigilante justice.
No, we don't.
But I'm really curious, Inspector, I've seen situations where, you know, somebody is resisting arrest, right, from the police, and they're resisting. I know that's a charge you're saying, right?
Yes, it is.
Understood that. And I've seen where the police have resorted to using extra force to be able to detain this person. If I am attempting to make a citizen's arrest and the person is resisting as well, am I allowed to use extra force, or am I just supposed to say, well, no, I can't use force because I might get a lockup?
Right, so the police officers are guided by the use of force policy, use of force continuum. And we have that document officially. But in law or under normal thinking of a human being, you would utilize sufficient force based on the incident. So if it is realized that you cannot effect the arrest without
getting violent.
Yeah, then, you know, leave it alone. You know, allow the police to come in, because you would have already called for the police through 999, as the case might be, at the station district, as the case might be. The police will come on mobile, and they would come more than likely, they will call for backup depending on the situation. And so they would be able to, you know, detain the person accordingly, right? So don't put yourself at risk. If it is just you alone, if you have some other neighbors who are assisting you, fine, but don't put yourself at risk. You know, let the police come in and do our part in it. Right, so in relation to the obstructing and the resisting, where you have persons, for example, as we mentioned last week, there's a little piece of document called a certificate of character.
Of good character.
And persons do not understand the weight of that document when you're looking to get a job, when you're trying to get a driver's permit for taxi driver badge and that kind of thing, how that piece of document weighs very heavy on you when you're looking for employment. And so sometimes you might see a friend getting arrested or something happened to a friend, and you want to be part of it to say, well, I was there for you. Think before you act. Because if the person is being arrested and you think that that person is wrongly being arrested, there are avenues that you can take through the police service. You can make a report to Complaints Division. You can go to Professional Standards Bureau. You can go to the Police Complaints Authority if you think that the arrest that the police officer is doing is wrong, if you believe so. If not, allow the police to do their work regardless, and, you know, you keep your record clean. You know, that really affects, and it affects a lot of young people. You'll be surprised to know how that really impacts a lot of young people who, after they thought about it, looking for a job now, and problems, really problems.
Inspector Lewis, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing this information with us. I think it was very helpful, and I think a lot of people will benefit from having this information now.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having us once
Not a
again.
problem.
Thanks, Ms.
Take care.
Lewis.
We'll see you soon. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Take care. We'll take a quick break and come back with more inside the Now Morning Show. We go all the way till 8 a.m. Stay tuned.